Today I'm taking you on a journey to one of the most significant historical and religious sites in the world, Golgotha.
The prophets wrote of it, the Gospels described it, and for 2,000 years the faithful longed to touch it. Golgotha, the hill of crucifixion, the place of the skull. Yet for centuries, its true location was buried in debate and mystery. Was it real, or was it just a symbol created by early believers to strengthen their faith? Skeptics dismissed it. Scholars argued it was myth, a hill that never existed, a story woven only in the pages of Scripture. And for generations, Golgotha remained a battlefield of doubt. But today, something has shifted. Israeli archaeologists, digging beneath the ancient layers of Jerusalem, have uncovered evidence that cannot be ignored. Beneath stone, soil, and centuries of silence, they have found the remains of a place that matches the Gospels with startling precision. An abandoned quarry, scarred by tools of men long gone. Soil alive with traces of olive trees and grapevines. Carved tombs resting in quiet dignity, just as the Scriptures described. Every detail whispers the same truth. The Gospel writers were not inventing, they were recording what they saw. And yet, this discovery is more than history. It is prophecy made visible. Words written hundreds of years before Christ seem to rise from the dust, fulfilled in stone and soil. But here lies the tension. If Golgotha is real, then what else in the Gospels might be real too? And if prophecy is written into the earth itself, what does that mean for skeptics who have spent centuries dismissing it? Stay with me, because what was uncovered beneath Golgotha is not just archaeology, it is something far greater, something that may change how you see faith, history, and truth itself. Long before the archaeologists arrived with their tools and cameras, Golgotha was already etched into the memory of the world. The Gospels call it the place of the skull, a hill just outside the walls of Jerusalem, where Roman soldiers led Jesus to be crucified. To believers, it is the most sacred ground on earth, the place where death was defeated by resurrection. But history was not always kind to this site. Jerusalem has been destroyed, rebuilt, and conquered more times than most cities on earth. Each invasion buried memories under rubble. Each empire left its mark, layering its stones over the past. By the time modern scholars began searching for Golgotha, the trail was already buried under centuries of war, religion, and shifting politics. Tradition points to the Church of the Holy Sepulchre, built in the 4th century by Emperor Constantine's mother, Helena, who claimed to have identified the true site of Christ's crucifixion and burial. But over time, doubts grew. The location was deep inside the city walls, not outside as the Gospels seemed to suggest. Some argued another site, Gordon's Calvary, looked more like the skull described in Scripture. The debate raged, splitting Christians, skeptics, and archaeologists alike. And so, Golgotha became a question mark. Was it legend? Was it misplaced? Or had centuries of conquest and construction simply hidden it from view? Now fast forward to the present. Israeli archaeologists, working quietly beneath the surface of Jerusalem, have uncovered something extraordinary. Not just relics, but evidence that aligns with both Scripture and prophecy. A discovery that threatens to end the debate once and for all. But what exactly did they find beneath the stones of Jerusalem? And why does it matter to us today? The digging began like any other excavation. A team of archaeologists brushed away dust, cataloged stones, and mapped the layers of Jerusalem's forgotten past. But the deeper they went, the stranger it became. First, they uncovered the remnants of an ancient quarry. Its cut rock walls matched descriptions of 1st century construction sites. The quarry dated back to the time of Herod, precisely when the Gospels say Jesus was crucified. To most, it was just stone, but to the trained eye, this was a sign. The land outside the city had once been scarred, shaped, and abandoned. a perfect setting for executions. Then came something even more striking. Just beyond the quarry, archaeologists found tombs carved directly into the limestone. They were simple, unfinished, and eerily similar to the kind of tomb described in the Gospel accounts, the very kind Joseph of Arimathea might have owned. These tombs were not later additions, they belonged to the same era. But the discoveries didn't end there. Soil samples revealed olive and vine pollen embedded in the earth. This was no barren hill of rock. It was a garden. And Scripture records that near Golgotha, in the place where he was crucified, there was a garden, and in the garden, a new tomb. Suddenly, text and terrain were no longer separate. They were one. Piece by piece, the evidence mounted. A quarry, execution grounds, a garden, and tombs, all in one place, all aligning with the Gospels. For centuries, skeptics claimed the writers exaggerated or fabricated, but here was the land itself, testifying against them. Still, as remarkable as these findings were, they raised an unsettling question. If the physical setting of the crucifixion was real, what about the prophecy tied to it? The stones were speaking, but they were not speaking alone. For what the archaeologists uncovered beneath Golgotha did not simply match history, it echoed prophecy. Words written centuries before Christ suddenly felt alive, as if etched into the soil itself. The prophet Isaiah wrote, "He was numbered with the transgressors, yet he was with the rich in his death." Isaiah 53:9 and 12. The scene beneath Jerusalem fit the prophecy in eerie detail. A quarry turned execution ground for criminals, and nearby, freshly hewn tombs belonging to the wealthy. A hill of death beside a garden of burial. The Psalms declared, "They pierced my hands and my feet. They divide my garments among them, and for my clothing they cast lots." Skeptics had long claimed this was poetic exaggeration, yet the quarry floor bore grooves where Roman crosses could have been set into place. The ground itself seemed to preserve the echo of that brutal practice. Even the garden spoke. The Gospel of John records that near the site of the crucifixion was a garden with a new tomb, one in which no one had yet been laid. The pollen samples revealed olive trees and vines once flourishing there, a sign of life and fruitfulness beside the place of death. Every layer matched, every detail resonated with prophecy. The site was not a random hill. It was a stage prepared long before Rome or Jerusalem rose to power. But this raised a haunting question. If prophecy could be carved into stone, fulfilled so precisely in the death of Christ, then what of the prophecies still waiting? Could the same scriptures that mark Golgotha also be pointing toward events yet to come? The discoveries at Golgotha sent ripples through the archaeological world. For believers, it was confirmation. For skeptics, it was trouble, and trouble demanded explanation. Some scholars argued that the quarry, the tombs, and the garden could simply be coincidence. After all, Jerusalem is a city built on layers of sacred history. Couldn't these features belong to some other execution ground, some other family's burial plot? To them, the alignment with the Gospels was striking, but not proof. Others claimed that faith was shaping interpretation. They said archaeologists were reading the Bible into the stones, bending evidence to fit a religious narrative. For skeptics, the danger wasn't what was found, it was how believers would use it. And then there was the political angle. Jerusalem's holy sites have always been battlegrounds of belief. Every discovery threatens to tilt the balance between Christians, Jews, and Muslims. The more the Golgotha findings aligned with the New Testament, the more controversial they became. Some even warned that publishing too much detail could spark conflict. Still, the evidence refused to go away. The quarry, the tombs, the pollen of a vanished garden, each piece lined up with both prophecy and history. Skeptics tried to downplay it, but the stones did not bend to opinion. They simply lay in silence, testifying to what they had seen. And here lies the tension. If archaeology confirms even part of the gospel record, how much longer can doubt survive? What if the skeptics are not simply debating history, but resisting something far deeper? The possibility that prophecy is unfolding right before their eyes. Yet as powerful as these discoveries are, something doesn't add up. The reports from the dig teams are strangely quiet. Small fragments of information are released, enough to stir debate, but never the full picture. Why? Whispers spread among those close to the excavation. Certain artifacts have not been shown to the public. Documents remain sealed. Photographs have surfaced, only to vanish again. Officials insist this is standard procedure, but some insiders suggest other.
What could be hidden beneath Golgotha that is too dangerous to reveal? Some believe it is because the evidence does not simply confirm history, it challenges power. If the execution site, the garden, and the tombs line up with Scripture, then centuries of academic doubt collapse in a single moment. Skeptics lose their strongest arguments. Institutions built on uncertainty suddenly find themselves without ground to stand on. Others whisper of stranger things. They claim inscriptions were uncovered, markings carved into stone that may connect directly to Roman soldiers stationed in Jerusalem during the crucifixion. If true, these would be the first historical records outside the Bible linking directly to Golgotha itself. But the most unsettling rumor of all? That what was uncovered points not only backward to the crucifixion, but forward to prophecies yet unfulfilled. Could Golgotha still be speaking, not just of what has happened, but of what is coming? The silence of officials only fuels the mystery. Each missing report feels like another locked door, another unanswered question. And so we are left here, suspended between evidence and secrecy, history and prophecy. The stones cry out, but their full message remains hidden. For now.
The mystery grows larger with every unanswered question. Why the silence? Why the careful release of only fragments when such discovery should be shouted across the world? Perhaps it is because Golgotha is not just another archaeological site. It is the collision point of history and eternity. To expose its full truth would shake both faith and skepticism at the same time. And that kind of shock does not come without resistance. Think about it. If the execution grounds of Christ are proven beyond doubt, then the crucifixion is no longer just a matter of belief. It becomes a matter of history. And if the crucifixion is history, then resurrection can no longer be dismissed as mere legend. One discovery at Golgotha could undo centuries of doubt in a single stroke. But there's another layer still: prophecy. If Isaiah, the Psalms, and the Gospels line up with soil and stone, then the Bible is not just a spiritual book, it is a prophetic map. That means prophecies not yet fulfilled may be closer to reality than most want to admit. Wars in the Middle East, unrest in Jerusalem, rising conflict over sacred ground, all these could be part of the same unfolding script. So perhaps the silence is not about what was found, but about what it means. Because if Golgotha can confirm prophecy fulfilled, then it might also point to prophecy yet to come. And that truth could shake nations as much as it shakes skeptics. The question lingers in the air. What are we not being told, and why? The discoveries at Golgotha are more than stones and soil. They are a battlefield of belief. And the moment whispers of them escaped, the world's reactions split like a fault line. For the faithful, the news ignited awe. Pilgrims spoke in hushed tones of prophecy fulfilled, tears falling as they prayed at the Church of the Holy Sepulchre, no longer wondering if they were standing on sacred ground, but knowing it. For them, archaeology had become testimony. But for skeptics, the discovery stirred unease. Universities issued cautious statements. Some scholars warned against religious bias, insisting more research was needed. Others dismissed the findings outright, saying the soil and tombs could be coincidence. Yet beneath their objections was fear. What if the evidence really did confirm the Gospels? What if centuries of dismissal crumbled in the face of stone that refused to lie? And then there are the institutions. Governments recognize the explosive potential of such proof. If the crucifixion site can be verified, then Jerusalem, already the world's most contested city, becomes even more volatile. Every faith, every denomination, every ideology will want to claim it. Control of Golgotha would mean control of history itself. The Church, too, stands at a crossroads. For centuries, it has guarded tradition, but now science is catching up, peeling away marble and time. Some leaders welcome the light. Others worry. What happens if archaeology uncovers truths that challenge doctrine? Or worse, what if it confirms them so powerfully that the whole world is forced to reckon with Jesus on history's terms, not just faith's? The ground at Golgotha doesn't just divide believers and skeptics. It threatens to divide nations. Piece by piece, the picture becomes undeniable. A quarry abandoned in the 1st century, matching the jagged rock described by the Gospels. Fertile soil with traces of olive and grape, just as John wrote of a garden where the cross once stood. Tombs carved for the wealthy, fulfilling Isaiah's vision of the Messiah laid with the rich at his death. And beneath the marble shrine, the ancient foundations of Constantine's church, tying the modern site to a tradition stretching back nearly 1,700 years. Individually, each discovery could be argued away, but together they form a chain stronger than denial. Soil, stone, and scripture are no longer competing voices. They are harmonizing into one truth. For skeptics, this is the breaking point. To dismiss the evidence now requires more faith in doubt than belief in history. Coincidence can't explain prophecy aligning with archaeology across centuries. Chance cannot turn a barren quarry into a 1st century garden described in detail by a gospel writer. Skepticism begins to sound less like science and more like fear. For believers, this is more than validation, it is vindication. Generations who held fast to the cross without proof now see the ground itself rising to confirm their faith. The scriptures were not invention, they were record. They were testimony waiting for the stones to speak. And yet, even in this payoff, one haunting thought remains. If the prophecies of the past are fulfilled so precisely, then what does that mean for the prophecies yet to come? The evidence at Golgotha does not just close the book on history, it opens a door into the future. The stones have spoken, the soil has testified, the tombs have borne witness, and prophecy has unfolded with precision too sharp to ignore. Golgotha, once dismissed as myth, now rises from the earth as undeniable history. But just when the story seems complete, a final twist emerges. Because under the layers of soil and marble, beneath the shrine and the garden, archaeologists found something else, something that does not fit neatly into reports or press releases. Fissures in the limestone, cracks running deep into the bedrock, and within those cracks, a residue dark and strange, unlike anything expected. Some said it was ancient soot. Others whispered it was blood, trapped in the rock for 2,000 years. Tests were made, but the results, well, they were never fully released. Why the silence? Why the hesitation to reveal what lies in those fissures? Some claim the evidence was too controversial, too faith-shaking to share with the public. Others believe the results are being deliberately buried, kept hidden until the world is ready. But ready for what? If Golgotha has already confirmed prophecy fulfilled, then what truth lies sealed in the bedrock? What secret could be so powerful that it is safer left in darkness? Perhaps the earth itself remembers. Perhaps the rocks are still crying out the story of that day when the sky darkened, the ground shook, and the veil was torn. And if the stones of Golgotha still hold their final testimony, then one question remains. When the last seal is broken, will the world be prepared for what it reveals?